YouTube is canceling its own content creators. And that's a good thing because I've been telling you for years that this was coming and now it is. And it's the only way that you people are going to learn that when you put your faith in a corporation, you will fail every single time. Now, shout out to Hamza. I'm channeling his spirit today. So I believe that, like him, when you get onto YouTube, you need to have a well-defined product. Because make no mistake, everybody on this channel, on this platform, is selling something, right? Nobody comes onto YouTube just to tell you their thoughts for the sake of telling you their thoughts or to share anything anymore. This is not 2006. Everyone on YouTube, most people, are basically gambling addicts because everyone wants to hit it big. Everyone is buying a lottery ticket in the hopes that they are going to be the big next star, right? The next big star. But that's insane. I mean, the chances of making it on YouTube in 2023 are about as likely as being struck by lightning or hitting the lottery jackpot, okay? It's just not a feasible business option. Now, my defined product is information. It's education so that you can be empowered. And it's woven in everything that I do on this channel. But it's not something that people want to hear because it's like telling someone, don't buy a lottery ticket. That's like telling them not to take a chance, to be in the game. Because if you're not in it, how are you going to win it? That's what everyone's thinking. And that is precisely why I'm glad that YouTube is canceling its own content creators because it's the only way that people are going to learn. People learn through experience, not through words. And so I've been seeing, and I'm sure you have too, a lot of content creators lately complaining about how they're becoming demonetized. And it seems like it's for no reason. It seems arbitrary. Now, some people are, when I started YouTube, it was right at the end of the whole apocalypse thing. So when I got into this, I knew that this was not a money making scheme. Okay, it's a great way to catalog and curate all of my research and all of my information that I've gathered over the years. And it's great to look back at because this is an historical artifact. It's a testament to how things were in this period of our history in the self-broadcasting atmosphere that we are in right now. And so for me, this is not about a lottery ticket or trying to win anything. I'm well aware that that's not how it works. But a majority of the people are facing the same things that the apocalypse people faced a few years ago because they still treat the platform like it's a lottery ticket. They treat it like it's their right to become broadcasters of some sort. Now, I come from the real mainstream broadcasting and mainstream media field, so I know how distribution works. Before anything is put out, the editor really has the final say, and the editor listens to the people providing the money. So every discussion, every debate, whatever, it's all pre-framed for a certain purpose, even if it looks like it's providing you with alternate points of view. It's all designed to make the person giving you the information famous or rich in some sense. So now YouTube is a distributor, okay? In the mainstream world, what happens is you as a producer create a product, a show, music, whatever it is. You gather all of the components needed for that, you put it together, and then you send it to a distribution channel, and then the distributor sends it to an exhibitor. The exhibitor shows whatever you've done, whether that be a radio station, whether it be a movie theater, or even Netflix. Now, Netflix, a radio station, a movie theater, are the exhibitor. They take a cut. The distributor, who has access to all these channels, they take a cut. And then the producer takes a cut, and it goes down from there. The money flows down from the top of the pyramid all the way there. Now, the difference with YouTube is that YouTube is a distributor and an exhibitor. And the biggest difference is that you get nothing. So you provide the product, you put all your money, your time, your research, your thinking, you put your personality on, you pick out your wardrobe, you set up your lighting, you write your scripts, and then you edit the thing, you take out all the words that you're not supposed to say. So now you have to be super conscious of what's going on politically. You are basically a publicist, a writer, a director, an editor. You're everything. You're doing 250 people's job as one person. Still not paid. You go, you put it up on YouTube, which is your distributor and exhibitor, for free. You're working for a siren server. Okay? And so when people admittedly and maybe even justifiably get angry that they are now becoming demonetized, it is understandable. But if you go back to the basics, to what I've been trying to tell you for years, then you'll understand that it was never designed for you to make money. It was designed for you to put content on there to drive people to the site, but it's not about you. And if you read my research, which if you Google this, you will find it, I talk about how corporations basically don't care about you. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we're talking about how YouTube is canceling its own creators, and the way you can kind of make sure that that doesn't happen to you. Now, like I said, my defined reason for being on here is to give information, education, so that you can be empowered, so that you know what you're doing. Because being a broadcaster, sending messages to a mass audience is not just something you can do. Now, a lot of people have different strategies that they try and sell you on, that no, you should use this thumbnail and you should use gold because Mr. Beast uses gold, and so gold equals money. I mean, Pinely, a great content creator, was just talking about that the other day. Then you've got other people who say, well, you have to post at a certain time, and that will affect how many people see you. There are all these different rules and theories that people have that don't really amount to anything other than keeping you in this self-defeating loop where you feel responsible for things that don't even take you into consideration as an individual creator. And so the one thing you need to realize, that the only way to win in this game, or to even start in this game, if you are one of those gamblers, those people who think that you want to make it, you need to have one of these four things. You either need to come from a rich family, you need to be basically in some kind of gang or corrupt organization, maybe a mafia, you need to sell your body, or you need to use voodoo or magic or some kind of Satanism to make it. Now, people roll their eyes at that, but what I'm really talking about are the four families of protection. Now, you have people like Sloan, for example, and even the Humanist Report, for example. These people are independent creators, and now they are facing demonetization and threats of having all their work deleted. Why? Because they're independent. They don't have one of the four families. Now, there are other creators like JC, which I'm sure you all know who I'm referring to, who can do whatever they want and nothing happens to them. Why? Because they have one of these four families. And so before you even start to think of coming onto YouTube to make money, you need to be affiliated with one of these four things. Now, coming from a rich family helps because, as we all know, it's all about how much money you can put into your content these days. You can't just sit and start talking to people unless you have one of these other three things. But generally, you've seen the people who drive their Lamborghinis, who show you these amazing lifestyle vlogs going all over the world, jetting across the globe in these beautiful locations. That stuff costs money. You know about people who have those motion control cameras and lighting setups that would rival any Hollywood production. So that helps. And you wonder, how can they do it? Where do they get the money from? They're so young. Well, it's the family's money. So that's one form of protection. Because if anything happens to them, they can just pick up and start again. They can buy content farms. They can buy ads, whatever, Google, whatever, to push their channel. Money buys everything. We know this. Don't need to get into it. Secondly, if you are part of some kind of gang, now I say gang, but essentially I mean a network. Okay? A network, a gang, mafia, same thing. Because you get preferential treatment because you are part of an organization. Now, take YouTube, for example. There are certain networks that you can join. There's the TYT network, there's the MCN network, there's all these different networks that take individual YouTube content creators, put them all together, and then they take a split of your revenue. But you get protection because if you have any issues, they will take care of it for you. You can swear on your channel. You can do certain things that other people cannot do. We've all seen the videos of the different scandals where one content creator showed some video game and then another person showed the same clip from the same video game, but they got blocked and the other person was allowed to go through. The person who could go through is part of a network, so they can do whatever they want. It's a gang, it's a family, it's a mafia, it's a union, whatever you want to call it. Then, of course, you get the people who sell their bodies. Those people are, going for the lowest common denominator in the algorithm, which is people's base instinct. Sigmund Freud told us this over 100 years ago, that if you want to get people's attention, go for sex. Sex sells. We know this. Anyone who's seen advertising knows it works. So you have people on YouTube who just do 2.5 hour videos, sometimes more, sometimes 8 hours, of themselves sleeping. Nothing else, just sleeping in skimpy outfits. And people are watching that in droves. Or you have people swimming in a tube well, wearing tight underwear so that you can see outlines of things. Again, nothing contributive to society except maybe people's pent up in a, you know. Then you have the magic people. Now again, I'm not talking about people doing literal spells. Maybe they do, who knows? But essentially, it's a cabal of people who think that if they wear this color, if they pray to this thing, if they do this or that, or whatever they do in that community, then they will, um, they do that and they get protected for that. They have parties and they do things at those parties. We don't need to get into that because these people are out there and they know what they do, and I'm not here to judge what they do. I'm just telling you how to be protected and not get cancelled by YouTube. Now, a lot of people don't have access to any of this. A lot of people come on here and they think, oh, I'm just going to be myself, or I'm going to make a product. I'm going to follow some scheme that I paid $1,000 for in a course. I'm going to automate my channel. I'm going to use robot voices and AI and but the truth is, you're playing the lottery. There's no rhyme or reason for your success if you're an independent person. And so when you do get successful, like the people I've mentioned, the biggest mistake, like Sloan and these other people who are independent, the biggest mistake they make is that they get into contracts with other investors instead of being in a family. The difference with being in one of the four families and with taking a contract is that when you take a contract, you are responsible for making good on that contract. The people you signed with, they aren't your family. They can't protect you on YouTube. So if anything goes wrong, you are going to be responsible for that money. And now you have this added pressure of building the content, doing all of this work, and then you have all this money that you're responsible for the investors. Whereas if you have a family, you've got backing, you've got even surety in what you're doing. And most importantly, you will not get cancelled by the platform. Now, why the platform cancels people, that's not subject of this video. You know, YouTube is a company, they can do whatever they want. They are a distributor and an exhibitor. You are the producer. So your job is to make sure before you do anything that you have one of these four families, if it is indeed your intention to make it on this platform, because it is not going to happen through luck. The last time anything lucky happened was in 1642. And do you know what happened in 1642? Exactly. Nobody cares. But if you are serious about making this a business, then you're going to have to play to win. Now, that obviously means giving up some kind of control creatively and some money, because these entities, these families, are built on loyalty. You need to be loyal to each or to whichever one you choose. And loyalty is shown through money. You need to pay. And that's why you've noticed that when some people, Crowder, refused to join a certain family, they were decimated. If that dude, Steven Crowder, had just joined the family, just taken the 50 mil that he was offered to join a network of protection, then he wouldn't be in the situation he was in, because best believe all the stuff that came out about him, that was happening since whenever. But it's curious that it only came out when he went after the family. You don't go after the family. If the Kardashians taught us anything, it's that you don't go after the family. Okay? And so now we find ourselves in this situation where you have a whole bunch of content creators who are feeling disillusioned with their dreams and with their life choices, because AI is making it easier for people to create content factories, basically, of automated channels, and thus taking away all of that revenue. And you've got all of these other people who are in these families, and they're getting away with everything, breaking all the rules. And it becomes confusing with people going, well, I'm following all the rules. Where's my, you know, fame or my views or everything I was promised? And that's why people say that our generation is entitled, because we believe in the old school way of doing things where it's based on work. We come from a time where it was, if you work hard and you dedicate yourself to something, you'll succeed. We were sold that in all of those success stories posters that we had on our walls at school, all those inspirational quotes, my future's so bright, I have to wear shades. You can do anything, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, you're right. Can and can't are separated by an apostrophe and a T. All of those platitudes mean nothing in the real world of business. And if you're on here, you're here for business. And so again, we find people having identity crises when they don't understand why what they're doing is not working. But the reason I'm so glad that this is happening is because people, again, don't listen. They need to go through it in order to feel it. But now what I'm advocating for is that once you see this happening, don't make the same mistake twice. If you go into my video section, you'll see a video presentation where I talk about Scribs 25. Scribs 25 is a movement that I've created to give content creators actual creative licenses.
We actually printing you a license card where you have that to say, I am a creative and I have creative license, which means that as a creator, as a producer, not getting paid while you're working, which is kind of low-key illegal and fraudulent. Have no idea why the employment equity people haven't gotten involved in this, especially since some people are even underage to be working. But to have this card so that if anything happens where you get demonetized or you get cancelled or anything, then you have a system behind you, backing you, without having to come from a rich family, without having to join some mafioso network and compromising your values. Stephen Cornelius. Without Spencer. Without kidding. Without having to sell your body and without having to resort to, sacrificing people so you can be part of a cool club and they know you're not going to talk about anything because you're involved in a sacrification. Okay, all of these are psychological tools meant to build loyalty, but we don't need that. That's the old school of operating. So with Scribs 25, it's a system of doing things where all you need to do, and the list of things are there to become an artist, is to know what you're talking about. That's it. Just know what you're talking about. And if you can do that, you get a creative license, because you're not going to be a person who gets on here and starts spewing some weird stuff that doesn't make sense and that alienates, everybody or whatever. It's okay to alienate some people, because one of the rules of Scripts 25 is know your audience. If you can define who your target audience is, creative license, because then you know who you're talking to. And if you know who you're talking to, you're not going to be all over the place trying to hit certain targets. You're going to stay on point and on brand. And like I said, it's so important to have a well-defined brand, not just floating all over the place spewing things because you're trying to hit the algorithm gold. That doesn't work. So when you come onto YouTube, you need to know what you're talking about. I spent over 13 months, way more like 24 to 36 months, if we put it all into account, writing this and researching this paper. And that's why I'm on here talking about this, because I know what I am talking about. It's not something I read in a book. It's not something I watched in a video or heard from somebody. I went undercover into a tech company with my target audience, interviewed them, listened to what they said, saw how corporations were behaving, matched that experience, which was qualitative, to quantitative data, so matched my personal impressions and experience with actual statistics coming in from reputable statistics companies like Pew Research and Stats as SA, to name a few. Looked at the AMPS um, data as well, which is the broadcasting data, and I could see a clear correlation between all of these things. And so when you look at YouTube now, 87% of the top 100 channels are companies. So no one's going to care about you if you're an independent producer. And so you need to care for yourself. And as we've seen with the WGA, you need to unionize. You need to come together as a collective and say, we are producing free content, which is unheard of in broadcasting. Never in history has this been made. I mean, the equivalent of what we're basically doing here is writing on walls, scribbling on cave walls for fun, but it's being sold as actual broadcasting, which is insane. I see people with these elaborate lighting setups, with these expensive microphones, and they only have 10 views. And so the amount of money and time that they've put into this greatly outweighs what they get out of it, because they get stricken because they use 2 seconds of a clip from a certain company, and then other people use 90 minutes and they're fine, or they say the wrong word and they get taken away, or they do something that doesn't fit into the published rules and they disappear. So now they've spent all this money and this production quality all of it to go to nothing. And again, that is unheard of in media. It's just insane to me. But, and normally I would be like, people, just stop, don't, blah, 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 pleading. But no, you deserve to be cancelled in this day and age. If you haven't read this, if you don't know anything about this, then you should be cancelled, because you should be doing everything you can to find ways to protect yourselves and to leave this idea behind of I'm in it for myself. I'm going to go it alone, because time and time again, when you go it alone, you'll get screwed. When I started, like I said, it was right after the whole adpocalypse thing. It was right when this whole new censorship thing was coming in, where you had to say the word unalived instead of dead, or you had to say whatever. I don't even know all the terms, they're so ridiculous. But I went back in time to look at what people were doing before then, and then to see all of those apocalypse reactions. And I saw people who were paying for their houses, mortgages, and school, and their cars. Their whole careers were based on this, and they had none, not one of the four families. They were completely independent, relying on sponsorship money, where they open themselves up to huge liability risk because they're on their own, and people signing contracts with different brands and different investors. And now they were on the hook because they got this money with projections of what they were going to make. They upgraded their studios, their equipment, and now they, overnight, they were deleted, and so, or demonetized, and lost their entire back catalog and any future revenue. And now they were sitting there, and I'm looking at them in a state. It was literally like people who win the lottery. They went from rags to riches. And then you look at that, and obviously we feel bad for them. But this wasn't the first time this happened, because in 2012, there was also a kind of adpocalypse or change to the system. And so this is not isolated to just this platform. I mean, this happens on network TV every day, where networks change program directors, or different studio heads come in and they just wipe out an entire division. People, even in politics, I mean, when certain people came in 2016, they just wiped out 23 of the experts in crisis management, and then when they needed them, they were not there, and look where we are now. So this happens everywhere, which is why I say there's no excuse to not know this by now. There's no excuse to come on here and complain that you were blindsided, because the only thing that blindsided you was your greed, your need, your wanting to go at it alone. And, it might sound harsh, but I think it's also harsh when you need to pay your mortgage and you can't, because you've been playing the lottery your whole life on this platform and others in general. And so this is not to down anyone or any platform. I mean, again, like I said, this is a distributor and an exhibitor. They have the right to do what they do. However, it's very naive to come on here and think this is the 1820s and you're a gold prospector and you're somehow gonna hit it big and strike the gold in the wild, wild west. Because people forget that even the wild, wild west was controlled. You couldn't just go in there and start mining for gold. You had to get in with certain groups, and then the Irish came, and read a history book. Well, you don't have to, because everything is right here. 60 pages, and you'll see what happens when you put all your faith in a corporation. Because I even have pay slips in there of some of the people that were affected. I mean, some people went home with something like $2 or something in a month of work because the corporation decided to, allegedly. So this is not a new phenomenon, and Yes, it's your right to speak out about how you feel YouTube is treating you, but again, YouTube is doing what they are supposed to do. They are doing their DNA, their brand DNA. They have a well-defined brand, and their brand is to get eyes on the site. Now, whatever you're doing on there, however they need to do that, that's their prerogative. There's two R's there. Everyone says prerogative, but it's prerogative. I feel like I'm in the Mandela effect of language sometimes. But, you know, I'm not encouraging people to go join one of the four families. I'm not saying that people who are in one of these four families are cheating or taking roids in a sense, because even with that, you still have to put in the work. You still have to be that brand, that person, that message that you're selling. I mean, look at Hamza. He always has his well defined brand, how he dresses, what he does, what he sells, and you know what message you're going to get from him. And I mean, it would be curious and interesting to find out if he's independent or if he's part one of the four families. I guess that will be your homework to figure it out. But most importantly, if you didn't take anything else away from this, it's this. When you act like a gambler, you get addicted. When you get addicted to something, you lose all sense of self and you start to blame yourself for why things aren't working out the way you think they should be. And worst of all, you're alone, producing, editing, working, writing, doing all of this work, and that is not a healthy mental and emotional and physical space to be in. And so, if anything, to protect yourself, your spirit, your mind, your psychology, your soul, as it were, if you believe in that kind of thing, you need to work smart. And working smart, if you think this is how you want to make money, is to read and then work with other people. Create your own networks. Scripts 25. And if you say you don't know where to find one, what to do, then go sign the petition to Scripps 25. I've made it so easy for you. All you have to do is go to the presentation in the video section of this channel. There's a link to the change.org page. Click on sign, and when there's enough signatures, there's power in groups. Because if a number of independent creators who don't owe each other anything, like these four families demand that you owe them something in some form, come together and say, we're not going to create, we're not going to upload, we're not going to make anything anymore until we get monetized, until we're allowed to say what we want. If one person has an issue, then you have the backing of the entire Scripps 25 creative license crew saying, well, then we are not going to do anything. And we've seen it time and time again with the WGA, how they halt production, they stop Hollywood, and everybody hates the WGA. But what they represent is extremely important, because in a fair system, the reason we got rid of the studio system in the 60s is because we didn't want this unilateral, vertically integrated system where nobody had any room to think creatively. It was all about creative control. And then there were other things that went in it, but it was all about creative control. But now on places like here, it's flipped. It's sold, and you have the illusion, I guess, of full creative control, but then no security. Whereas with the studio system, you had no creative control, but you had security. If you were an actor at Paramount in 1932, even if you weren't in a movie, you were still on the pay. You still got paid every week, even though you weren't shooting anything. Like a normal job, you got paid because that's your profession. But then we got rid of the studio system, and now you don't get paid, you're working, and now you don't even have protection. So think, people, use your minds. Protect yourself by fighting for the right to protect others. Simple.